Sunday nights with Sylvia Camille. Yeah. Welcome back, you guys, to another amazing night with yours truly. And I hope you had a wonderful week. I surely did. And I hope you stayed encouraged all week long. So I have a new word of the week, and it is entrepreneur. And I have a special reason tonight why I chose that word is because our guest calls himself an actorpreneur. We're going to talk about that in just a moment when I bring him into the room. But of course, we know an entrepreneur organizes and operates a business or businesses taking on a greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. So our guest tonight, Stanley Aughtry, he's an entrepreneur, an actorpreneur. So let me go ahead and bring him into the room. He's also an actor, you guys. So we have so much to talk about. Hey, Stanley, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yes, and I just want to go ahead and jump right in. You are an actor, and you call yourself the actorpreneur. So let's talk about that first. I want to talk about the preneur first, and then we're going to come and talk about your acting career.
Okay. All right.
How are you as an entrepreneur? What do you do?
Well, I do a gambit of different things. I have a real estate business. I have a barbershop business. I have a commercial cleaning business, restaurants in Chicago. So fortunately, I've been able to kind of dip and dabble in different industries on the entrepreneur side to create passive income, which is what I think any entrepreneur, boss level type will want to have at some point, and where they don't physically have to be at a business for that business to be profitable for them and their family and their employees and coworkers. So yeah.
Okay, so I read in your bio, you went to Hampton University and you have a master's degree in business administration. So
Yes.
This has always been a part of you growing up. You always want to have your own.
Yeah, I'm an electrical engineer by trade, and I always knew that the ultimate goal at some point would be to learn how to work a business and then have my own business. So that's something that I wrote out when I was 10 years old. And as I matriculated through college and started working for others and picking up on traits of how to be a leader, not only in the field of sports, but also in the classroom, and then ultimately in a professional atmosphere at a corporate Fortune 500 corporation. And so that allowed me to then take the personal skills that will be needed to be able to start my own business and use some of those personal skills to gather strong teams of people. Because regardless of just about anything you do, you're going to need strong teams of people to help you be successful. So trying to do it all by yourself, you're going to work yourself to death. But when you're able to assemble strong teams of people around you, that's only going to bless your success.
That's awesome. Now, say all those bits. You said a cleaning business. Did you say a restaurant?
Yeah, we have a restaurant up in Chicago that's been doing well over the last few years, and actually,
is it fine dining? What type of restaurant is it?
well, it's not fine dining. For the most part, it was a pop-up for a while, and then now it's moving to where we're going to put them in shelves of grocery stores, because basically through the pandemic, we've been able to see how being able to bag our stuff, freeze it, put it in where the end consumer can take it home, purchase it from any grocery store, and reheat it in order to enjoy it will be beneficial on both ends. So we're in the mixture of getting that part of it done now. So that's been going well also.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Now tell me about this cleaning business. Now you are locally here in Atlanta, right? Because
Yes.
I know you from Washington, D.C., Wayne County. But okay, it's the cleaning business here in Atlanta where people can, is it commercial cleaning, residential cleaning?
It's commercial cleaning, and it is in the Atlanta, Georgia area, though I may be sprouting out to open up a few more franchises that may not just be in Georgia. So I am looking at some other states now to potentially add some more franchise opportunity for the company. So, but currently, yes, it's commercial cleaning in the Atlanta area, in metro area. So.
Okay, y'all hear that? And I just glanced down to your shirt because I was trying to read it while you were talking, and it says actorpreneur. I love it. I love it. That's your brand. That's what you stand by. I love it. So let's also talk about, okay, You were an investor. Are you still doing that as well?
Yes. My investment group is Coppertone Investment. And basically it's a group of us. I'm the president and co-founder, and we've been together since about 2009. So when there was a crash of 2008, we kind of assembled, wanted to get involved with investing, learning a lot about the stock market, but then also finding ways to invest even outside of the stock market. So we're still doing a lot of investments within the stock market area, but we've been able to now buy a partnership and ownership of a brewery, as well as now we not too long ago bought ownership in an up and coming marijuana company that'll be sprouting out of Oklahoma. So over the years, we've been able to diversify not only in our stock market portfolio, but also in our business portfolio of investments to be able to add that to our whole portfolio. So that has been going well for us now since we're in year 12. Yeah, so.
Awesome. I'm listening and thinking about your journey. You said ever since the age of 10, you wrote down your goals. Mm-hmm. As a Black male, I just think that's phenomenal. At the age of 10, you knew what you wanted. And so mathematics, was that your favorite subject in school?
You know it. You know it. In order to do engineering, you have to have a passion for math. Because you'll get to the level of doing math that really doesn't make logical sense. In a sense, you'll start working the philosophies of math, and not just about numbers, but more about figures and how to find out how to produce an answer that will best solve a problem. So with engineering, that's ultimately what I discipline about, whether you're electrical, computer, mechanical, civil. Most of us have a mindset to whatever the issue is, we can use our resources to come about answering that solution with what's here and whatever technology we can also add to it to make it better. So you have to have a concept and passion for math and science, but definitely math.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, so let's just think back, because it's the month of, we're going into September. So school has just really started. So who would you say back in your later years of schooling influenced you the most? And was it your math teacher, or was it your, who was it that kind of led you into that path?
Good question. When I was in elementary school, I had two, maybe three that I thought of most. One was Miss Clark. One was Miss Gregory Hardy, who's still with us. Miss Clark has since passed, and also Miss Turner, who has since passed. As teachers, they were very dynamic in giving us the freedom of understanding. It's not about them teaching us what to think. It's about teaching how to think, and be able to think for ourselves and research and get information. So that was inspirational in a sense. At the same time, I had great coaches, and Coach Elvin James and Coach Joseph Taylor at Hampton, and where they brought the other aspect of time management and being able to use your strengths to realize that you can do it academically and you can do it athletically, and therefore you can be successful in two different genres that a lot of times people didn't feel like you can be. If you were a jock, they figure you was a jock and you might didn't have the brains.
Right.
If you had too much brains, then they figure you couldn't be a successful jock. So if you were one of those people that was fortunate to be what they would think is a unicorn or something and be well off in both, you can perform top level in sports and you can perform top level in the classroom, then you can now leverage that into the real world and use that in business. You can use that in any corporation or company that you go to, time manage it well so that you can get the best of your abilities. And so when you go to sleep at night, you know that you're putting out like some of the best work that you personally can do. And that's what it's about, making sure that you get the most out of yourself.
I love it. And I'm happy that you brought up about the football, your coaches, because that's what I was going to ask you. I was like, it's amazing. You have a beautiful story and a beautiful journey.
Thank you.
And I read you were the captain of the football team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. On all levels. On all levels. that's what I mean when I say learning leadership.
Mhm.
Um, between them, but also mostly between God, put me in position to where I held those levels of leadership, whether it was in high school or whether it was in college. My teammates and peers, really honestly to this day, have always kind of looked at me and placed me in that position. And it's not necessarily um, based on success more than it is based on trust. Um, Being a leader is one in where other people sometimes have the capabilities and desire to be leaders as well, but they also are willing to be soldiers or people that will follow if they trust the person that's in leadership. And so being able to be a person that these folks can actually trust um, is what I think endeared those folks to either vote me captain if it was a peer situation, or those coaches to assign me captain if it was the coaches assigning it. But to this day, those same folks are still in my phone, or still tethered to me, and I can show up in any city or any region and hit a text or a call and loop those people in that city together that may have not seen each other in years or months. But when I come in town, I'm the glue that can make it work. And it's awesome. It's awesome to be, but it's a blessing to be that, and it's a responsibility to be that. But I live for it, so that's good.
I reading your bio and reading everything, the articles that I read about you, you're doing a beautiful job, and I commend you for it. I
Thank
commend you. Now, wait a minute. You also played the trumpet. What do you not do?
you. That's the thing, yeah. And honestly, I haven't been playing it as much as I wish I could, because I don't have enough time for it. But yeah, growing up, I played the trumpet. Um, was first chair with the trumpet. So it was one of those things for me. Anything that I do, I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna try to be the best at it. And so I've gotten really good at it. But my father was musically inclined, so he played a lot of instruments: saxophone, flute. I think he played a little trumpet, keyboard. He was a blind man,
Mhm.
so you know historically, blind men have the inclination to sometimes be very musically inclined because they got a great ear.
Right.
So um, he definitely dabbled in a lot of that. So I also honored him in the sense of being able to help me have a natural gravitation to learning how to play um, instruments, and being able just to slide right into playing the trumpet and enjoying it while I did it. So, but I do miss playing as much as I did. But I always said, Lord willing, as I get older, I'll go back to trying to practice it and get my lips back in shape and keep my air so I can flow a little bit.
So I have this question for you, and I'm happy you brought up your father, because I was going to ask you what influential male was in your life, because
Mhm.
we always read and see in the news that the black child, the black male, they're doing this and that they can't accomplish anything, and you have accomplished so much in a short period of time of your life, and been a scholar, and you went to Hampton on a scholarship, so that is commendable. Who was there? Who influenced that? Who put that drive and that? Who put that fire in you?
Um, I I can't really say that was something that I had a male that was there to consistently put that there for me, because my father was my father from a distance.
Mhm.
I was able to spend my summers with him in DC, but I was mostly in North Carolina rooted with my mom. And so she's definitely like the biggest natural person to nurture that whole thing with me. But one of the things that my family instilled with me early was my relationship with God. And I can say from an early age, um, I've I recall having my own conversations with God and Him telling me what my path will be, what the results of those things will be. But like anyone, He don't always tell you what each step will look like. So I knew some of the things that I had to do or that I will be doing, but I didn't know if it entailed football. I didn't know if it entailed the corporations that I worked for, the college that I went to, or some of the businesses that I have started. I saw the results of it, but I didn't know the steps. So when we say order our steps, literally I was trusting him to order those steps for me each step of the way. So like you said, I was able to write things down. And then when I'm older and I look back and I read some of those papers or transcripts that my mom kept, and I'm like, wow, like at that age, young Stanley kind of knew that this is what he wanted to do. This was the path. This was the major he wanted to go in. This is what he wanted to do 5 years out of college. And literally those things that he wrote came to pass, even though it looked a little different. So it's one of those things in where from my relationship with God and then having kind of the support system to make sure that they get behind that as much as possible, that helped lift me into that. And then hopefully my obedience in trying to do all of that worked. But the coaches at that end, they really hold the biggest male figure influence. When I said Coach Elvin James, he won like the most caring coach award while I was in high school. This is in the whole country. That's in Goldsboro, North Carolina, a small town in the United States, and he won the most caring coach in all of the United States. So he was literally the type of man that not only was able to send kids to college on football scholarships, but he'll take a kid from another school that he wasn't coaching and find footage of them and help them get in school. It could be basketball, wrestling, football. And I had teammates that was in Hampton that he helped get scholarships for. He didn't coach them, but he was just that type of man. So those type of influences and coming in contact with them, which I'm sure was not an accident, those are the people that was able to help me have a broader vision than just football or just one professional career and call it a life. They were the type of people that allowed me to see that there's so much more to life, and that if you have the skill set, the energy, the ability, there's a lot that you can get out of life before this dash is over with. So that's
I love it. That's why I always say I like to work on my dash. What do you want your dash to represent? So Stanley, now we've got to jump straight into the actor, because actor is in front of preneur. So you're not a preneur actor, you're an actorpreneur. So how did this happen? How did acting come? How did it happen?
To be honest, out of college a little bit, I was able to do a little bit of modeling first. And then when I was on assignment for the company that I worked for with engineering, I was in Chicago. One of my high school friends, they were in college for film, but they were supposed to be potentially working on the Dark Knight film. And they got a casting call, and they ended up sending it to me, which at that time I wasn't thinking about acting. So I thought they just sent it to me to send to some other people that may be interested, which I did. I sent it to other people, but those people ended up sending my information in. And then the casting director asked for my sizes, which I had from my modeling days. So I sent my sizes off, and next thing I know, one day after work, I get a phone call and they say, "Hey, can you come in for an audition?" and everything else. So I said, "Okay, I can be there in about an hour," and I go downtown. Never done this before, never going to class yet, none of that kind of stuff. And I sit with the casting director and do what they asked me to do and have an interview. And she says, "I like you." She says, "So do you think you'll be available these dates, these dates, these dates?" And I told her yes, even though I really didn't know if I'd be available, because like this says, I have other things that I'm doing. I'm working for a whole nother company. But I told her, yeah, I think I'll be able to work it out. And as it would be had, it was like the dates was perfect for me. So I was able to finagle my schedule, be there when I needed to be there, film on the days I needed to film. And it was an awesome experience from the aspect that I was on set with people that's been acting forever for me. And it was like my first day out. And I'm in this scene, and I'm sure in that scene when we shot it, I think about it all the time. I'm sure there was over 20, 30 people I feel like was in that scene when we shot it that day. But when I was told what they wanted me to kind of do, I felt like the person that played sports again. So I gave him that look like, coach, put me in the game. I can make this play for us. So that's what I did. I used that. And at some point, I remember the cameras just staying on me. It was an extended take. And I said, okay, it seemed like they still rolling. Let me just keep going till they yell cut. Again, I never had any professional training at this point, but I understood that much. And so I'm out there for several weeks. Again, it's a big film. It's Dark Knight. It's 2 hours and 30-minute film. So I already know the rule. They may not use my scenes. I don't know. So I don't tell a bunch of people. I tell a handful of people that, yeah, I did work on this, but we'll see. And when the movie came out, I didn't watch it. I didn't go see it immediately. But the very first day that it came out, I remember someone calling or texting me saying, hey, were you in this movie, Dark Knight? And I said, wait, what did you see? And they described the scene to me. I was like, yeah. And so I went to see it late that night. And it was weird. I remember going to the theater, and by me not seeing it, I'm wondering, like, are people going to be looking at me like, hey, you was in the movie, da 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 da. But they didn't really recognize that it was me, I don't think. But when I finally saw some of the scenes, all of those 30 people disappeared. It was literally a close-up of me. The other 29 was not in the film. And I'm thinking, like, wait, these people been working for 10 years on this kind of stuff, 15 years on this stuff, and I'm stepping on set first time. And in a 2.5-hour film, they felt like my little snippet of time that I did my thing was important enough to keep in the film, that maybe there's something to this for me. Maybe I need to put some more time into it as I can and keep moving with it. So that's what really started that acting bug that they talked about on Andre Lamar's interview on here, like that acting bug. And from that, every so often I was back on set. Even with Dark Knight, when we talk about God and how things line up, when it was time to do part 2 of Dark Knight, I was living in Pittsburgh at that time for the same company that I was already working for when I was in Chicago. I had gotten promotions, moved to Pittsburgh. Just so happened to be that Dark Knight 2, I was shooting in Pittsburgh. They decided to shoot in Pittsburgh.
That's God.
It casted me not knowing that I had already did part 1 until I got on set. And so then it was like, oh, yeah, and everything connected. So for me to be in those 2 films, 2 major films like that, being in 2 different cities, and I'm not the star of the film by far, but at the same time, favor had it that I was in both of those films, and that started my career really. It started to bug in me. That's where that started from. So for the majority of my acting resume, honestly, it's more of God than it is my agents. I have great agents, but majority of the stuff that stands out was really him putting me in position and me being ready for the opportunity when it came.
That's a beautiful story. Because when I reached the Dark Knight, and then I said, oh, I mean, he came back and did it again.
Yeah, but that's just like even with Black Panther. That was a situation. I was just literally trying to help somebody else, and from trying to help somebody else, it turned into a principal opportunity for me in Black Panther 1. And then, luckily for me, now it's time for Black Panther 2. And fortunately, my character is in Black Panther 2. So,
I have a little clip I want to show everybody just to make sure that they know who you are. And because when I was reading, I was like, wait a minute, I gotta go back and look at it so I can make sure I know what he is. But that journey is amazing. And you've been in a lot of things, Stanley. Step Sisters, The Dark Knight Rises, Jack Reacher, Boo, or Medea, Halloween. I mean, TV, The Revolution, Will, Survivor's Remorse, Being Mary Jane, Greenleaf, Tales. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, and
How do
I
you
still,
feel about all that?
it's weird because I still want more. I'm like, I'm still feel like I'm just getting started because a lot of that stuff was on the job training, I say, where I was still doing roles that I'm still learning the industry. I'm still learning the actual skill set, uh, going to class, and actually learning the craft completely. And so now that I'm at a place in where I'm more advanced with it, it's like, okay, now I'm actually ready to level up in the industry as it is. So, even though there's plenty there that's on the resume to feel good about, there's more to come. So,
There's more to come.
it's
Oh,
more
and I can't wait. That's it's you have a beautiful story. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I got a couple more questions for you though. Not wrapping up. And we also have a black.
no. We can't wrap up yet because see, the thing is, I hadn't really gotten into the connection between this part yet. So I got time. I got time.
Oh, you got plenty of time. We got plenty of time. We got plenty of time. We got like 30 more minutes.
Okay.
But no. What I was going to say is risk is a part of being an entrepreneur. The word just being a risk. So tell us about what type of risk have you taken that you're still taking? And even if you're ready to connect the actorpreneur with it, you can do it right now.
As far as risk is sacrificing your time, mostly. And depending on what career field you're in, it's also figuring out when you actually have the space and capacity to add other things to your belt if you want to do other things. So for me, I was able to start my acting career while I'm still an engineer. That was before I actually started majority of the businesses. Now that I'm at this level of the acting, a lot of the businesses have been started and running for a while. So it leaves me in a place where I have more time I can be on set because financially I can take care of myself without having to be at my businesses. But if I try to do that out the gate in the beginning, I may not have enough finances to take care of myself the way I want to. And so I may need to be at someone's office from 8 in the morning to 5 in the evening, 4 in the evening. So being able to balance and time manage your necessities and what you got to take care of physically is important to be able to then leverage to do artsy and other things that you want to do until your art can become your main thing.
I love that.
Yeah, the thing that's important about this actorpreneur thing is a lot of times people hear stories of before such and such got that big break, they were sleeping in their car.
That's so true.
Yeah, that they had to risk it all before it finally happened, and boom, they became this, great story in Hollywood that went from losing their wife and being in the car sleeping to now they're America's heartthrob. But in today's world, we already seen there's no reason for us to have any more starving actors or actresses. There's ways to make currency in our country through all types of platforms, even the platform we're on now. Like there's ways to where people can click and help you make income. There's ways in where you can work from home. There's ability to be able to work at a company, know what time you're going to get off, and when you get off, put 2, 3, 4 hours towards what your real dream is, if that's not your dream. And see, the thing is when we're kids, we're usually coming through an elementary school and they're teaching us 6 or 7 different subjects. We got math, we got science, we got English, we got health, we have social studies, history. Then we go to PE or something like that. Then you may have some extracurricular activities such as football, basketball, track, chorus, band, any of those things. All the way while we're growing up, we're trying to get A's and B's, be excellent in a sport, be excellent in chorus. Then we go to college, many of us, and they ask us to major in a particular subject, and you may major in that subject, hoping that you can get a career in that science or that study when you come out of college. And then if you do it right, you're supposed to work in that field maybe for 30 years, be able to retire, hopefully have a 401k, hopefully be able to have a pension depending on where you went, or depending on Social Security and whatever plans you did. That was the way of thinking. But when you were growing up, you can recall you might have done, like you asked me earlier, I enjoyed math. But that didn't mean I didn't enjoy English. Or that didn't mean that even though I enjoyed math, did I enjoy playing my trumpet? So because I go into engineering, should I never play my trumpet again? Should I not even look to see if my trumpet can make me money if I join some jazz band at some restaurant in town? So I could be doing that on my weekends. Being an actorpreneur is where if there's multiple things that I felt like I was blessed to have a skill set in and I enjoyed, I can do my engineering because I enjoy math and science. But I also enjoy acting. I also enjoy drama. So that's not going to make me sacrifice this. I could still do my engineering and I could still find time to do my acting. The thing about it is when you can do both, I don't have to take every acting job that comes up. So if I feel like it's going to mean what I stand for, what I want to put out, I can make a choice and a decision not to take the role. In engineering, if there's a job or a corporation that's not going in the right direction, I can transition and go to another corporation because I'm having multiple incomes from different places to where I have the ability to not necessarily be forced to do anything. I can do what I need to do and what I want to do because I know what my skill sets are and I know the value of those skill sets. So being an actorpreneur isn't just about being an actor and being an entrepreneur. It's about treating yourself as a business to the aspect that if you want to get more out of your life, so when that dash is over and they put you in the ground, your tombstone could be full of whatever you wanted to show because you got the most out of yourself while you was here. You was able to, in my case, do acting, do sports, do engineering, be an entrepreneur. Others can be a book writer, be a scientist. Others can do this show, have a podcast, at the same time be an educator. You don't have to just do one thing anymore and just wait 30 years to reside on your Social Security. You can now do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things, still in the same 24 hours, 7 days a week that everybody else has, and still have time to go on vacations, enjoy your evenings with your family, and live a good life. And that's what we're promoting and that's what we're pushing. We don't want people any longer to feel like you have to starve to do it. There's ways for you to take care of yourself appropriately, financially, and still be able to go after your dreams. So like you asked me earlier about sacrificing, we want to get people to, yes, you have to sacrifice time. You might have to sacrifice some sleep to get things off the ground and to get things going. But in terms of having to sacrifice currency to be able to take care of yourself or your family, to take something else up, is a strategy. But you do not have to be starving. You do not have to go broke. You do not have to be poor, found on the side, and then someone say, you know what, I want you to dance on one leg and bark like a dog, you know, $100,000 to be in this show for me. You do not have to do that anymore. You now have multiple ways to create income for yourself, to take care of yourself and still go after your dreams.
So where's your platform where people can learn more about that? Because that it needs to be had and it needs to be said to put down that old stereotype that the struggling actor, they have to struggle until the big break comes. I love it.
We're actually working on a book now. We're going to start it off to be a children's book first because it's really, I think, important for the kids to gain it. Usually when I'm doing any public speaking, I try to speak to it just to make sure that people like us and people older than us can still see that there's opportunity for that. But if not, for them, there's still opportunity for those that they help influence and for those they bringing up. so they don't feel like they have to be pigeonholed into one direction or two. But we'll start with the children's book first, and then we'll also try to build from that and also create more film around it so that people can kind of see the way the world is now. They have to see it to believe it, especially with how big social media has grown. They almost have to start seeing it versus reading it or finding it in an article. But we do have certain articles that touch on it, and this is available for people as well. So I'm also putting that stuff out on my page at StanleyAughty.com or at Stanley Aughtry on IG. But we'll get more and more of that information out, because you do not have to be a starving artist anymore. To be an artist, you do not have to be a starving artist.
And I think more artists need to say that. That needs to be a part of their testimony. And I just love that, because, you know, it's just profound. Because where do you think that mindset comes from? Where we think, yes, we go to school, we go to college, 9 to 5, we do it for 30 years. And then after those 30 years are up, then you want to live your dream. Why do you think anybody, I'm not just going to say the Black community's culture, our mindset, why is our mindset like that, where you just have to go to the post office?
Well, I think it's because, one, that's what the country was built off of, right? The country was built off of a few entrepreneurs that was able to employ the 30-year employees. Even right now, while the pandemic's going on, you're seeing more articles come up with, this has been the most that they've ever seen, people leaving work and quitting the workforce, because you're having more people finally like, I can do for myself. But the natural tradition of America, even though for foreigners, they come in already understanding, like, we came here to start our business, build our business up, and then sprout it. But for people that's born here, and especially in our community, African-American communities, we're more so like, try to get a degree, get a good job with that degree, put in good work, and then at the end of that, you'll have hopefully a retirement or pension that you can depend on. Well, while you're doing that for 30 years, there's an employee like me that started that company that's like, I had a great employee for 30 years of their life. And even if I die, my children benefit from my corporation having employees for 30 years, 30 years, 30 years. That's forever. My family get to continue eating off of employees coming to that same company for 30 years, 30 years, 30 years. And I pay them a wage that's fair to them, while I get the profit share of their life. That's what business is. And so at the end of the day, if we don't look at how business works and how we ourselves should look at ourselves as a business, it may be a matter that you're okay with being a cog in the wheel of being a good employee for 30 years somewhere. And trust me, me being an employee, I am not telling people not to be an employee. I need employees. And I always say it's not easy being an employer either. So I'm not trying to make it sound easy. But at the end of the day, for most people, you can be an employee somewhere while being an employer somewhere. Me personally, I don't have a problem doing that. I have an engineering degree, and I don't mind using my degree helping another employer get to their goal, while I feel like the wage is fair on this end, while I'm over here also as an employer. So as long as I want to do it, I can do it. So you can do both. But for some people, it's a lot more secure to feel like, hey, if I'm an employee, I know my check's coming every 2 weeks. I know it's on the 1st and the 15th. I know exactly how much I'm supposed to get as long as I'm there every day, so I can budget it. If this is how much I make a year, when they're an employer, they don't know. One year they may make 100,000, the next year it could be 50. The next year it could be 250, and they can go like this. But the difference for an employer is he knows there's no ceiling. There's no ceiling. The only bottom is zero, but you're going to very rarely see zero, because you can even call bankrupt before you see zero. So you just know that you're going to always have an unlimited ceiling. And so you can make however much you're willing to put the work in to make in any given year. Where for an employee, you're pretty limited. You know how much your raise can be. Even if you change companies, it's usually not going to double. So you may not have that kind of effect. So that mindset that you're talking about, that's something that the country built itself off of, because employers build their billions off of employees coming there hoping to put 30 years in over and over and over and over again, decade after decade after decade, and their family gets rich. So
how much is that? So, okay, with your acting, how much, what advice would you give a person who's in acting to make sure that they understand the business side of acting? How important is that?
The business side of acting is important, especially once you get away from the Southeast region, and by mainly being Georgia, because in Georgia we're in a luxury acting world, so to speak, because you get to be non-union, in union, and work together and get the same benefits. Where if you're in New York, you're in Chicago, you're in LA, to really get what you want on a business end, you need to be in the union. I'm a part of SAG-AFTRA, so I'm a part of the union, so I can go pretty much anywhere in the world and make sure my union handles my business appropriately. As a non-union, as long as you're in Georgia, SAG-AFTRA will still take care of you if you're on a SAG project. The reason why that's important is, as a non-union talent, you can work on a non-union project, and whatever the agreement is, if it could be $125 a day, it could be a flat, if it's a commercial, it could be a flat fee of $250. That commercial could run for 3-4 years. And just like we talked about with business, that commercial could be making somebody $1 million something, but you got $250, and you're like the main face on that commercial. But you see the person that's doing Allstate commercial or State Farm commercial, that particular talent is making millions of dollars if that commercial is making millions of dollars. So here you are doing non-union stuff, which is fine because you got to build up.
Right.
But as far as the business goes, if you're on something that has a certain level of success, if your contract don't have a percentage in there for you to be able to have a percentage of the profit share, or for you to be able to have a percentage at the end of it, then what you get is what you got. Where if you're a part of the union, or in my case, if I'm in a principal role in Black Panther, when Black Panther do 1.4 billion, fortunately, the residuals of that going to continue to keep coming as long as Black Panther keeps being shown to the world. So even when I pass on, whoever I can leave it to will still be getting a residual 50 years from now if Black Panther is still rolling. And that's why it's important to understand the business ends of when you're coming in, what you really want to sell your talent for, what you really want to put your imprint into some film or project and do. And then beyond that, when we talk about business, if you want to do something else behind the screen, if you want to be a producer, if you want to do directing and get into the residuals of directing, there's a lot of other avenues than being just in front of the camera that, for profitability's sake, it makes you a lot more profitable to look behind the camera and see what also interests you as well, versus just seeing yourself in front of the camera, which is fun at times, but there's a lot more to film than just getting on camera, doing your thing, and then seeing yourself on TV. That's the easy part. The other part is a little tougher, but it's also a lot more beneficial. And understanding the business end of that, one, helps your bank account well, but then two, helps you recognize who you need to be when you're playing a certain role, whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera, to make the whole team stronger.
You are so wise. You say for this short period of time, I don't know what you're gonna be like 10 years from now. You're gonna have an action book. You're gonna have your ActorPreneur book. Now I know another book is gonna have to come out as well. I want to go back and talk about auditioning. What tell us? Looks like your worst audition you had. You had one?
I think one of my worst auditions, at least in my mind, might have been an in-person audition that I went to a long time ago. And it was with Miss Winston Sinclair. I think I could say her name on here. And I remember going in there, and it was probably one of my first for her, for sure. Mm-hmm. And so you start seeing people that supposed to be in your same likeness going in to do the same kind of thing that you're about to do. And at that time, I hadn't had like a whole lot of training yet. So you go in there, you still want to put your best foot forward and do your thing, but you're also trying to think about what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. And so at that time, I went in there thinking about what she might have been looking for and what the character background sounded like. And so when I did it that way, but it didn't feel comfortable for me. And so even though I did it, and I think it might have went okay, all right, when I finished, I felt like it read on my face that I did it, but this ain't, I personally wouldn't want to be like this person. So the funny thing was I did end up getting a role in that film, but it wasn't that particular role. So in a sense, it worked out. But for me, that probably felt like my worst now that I look back on it, because I'm a complete 180 different auditioner now. It's one of those situations where I want to bring my flair to the character and maybe give the casting director something they might not have been even seeing in the script. When they talk about that aha moment in the script, like when you look for it, you say, I think if I do this right here, either they're like, that's what I wanted to see, or they're like, wow, I didn't even look at it that way. Because they can always redirect you and try to get you back into the lane that they want you in. But you at least want to try to give them something first to be like, I'm impressed. That was different. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. And then now you start the dialogue, and now you can actually build a relationship with them. But when you go in there and you kind of give it to them exactly how you think they want it, there's a bunch of other people doing it the same way. And so now you're trying to think, okay, now that you got some experience, it's like, all right, how can I make this a little bit more impactful so that it becomes a conversation? What choice can I make? How can I add something that with my look, my physique, you get to see me in this role and not me trying to become that character, but that character actually become me. And that's kind of where the audition is.
So what advice would you give to anyone who's listening, who's going to watch this interview, who's watching the interview?
Everything about auditioning.
Huh?
About everything or about auditioning? About auditioning. Basically for the auditioning part, well, right now, because we're in a pandemic, like most of it is still self-taping. So if it's going to be self-tape, definitely make sure it's a quality film. They always tell you, make sure they can see you, make sure they can hear you. Number one, I'll bet, make sure they can see you. So make sure your lights are good. Hopefully y'all can see me well. Make sure they can hear you. Hopefully y'all can hear me well. So those two things, check. Try to use a blank wall. So right now I got, these frames behind me, so I wouldn't do an audition in front of this wall. So try to make sure there's nothing that's going to take the attention off of you. And then from there, when you're actually doing the content, recognize that you're doing a performance, that they're going to be watching your performance. A lot of us get stuck on the memorization of the words, which for me, I memorize very well. So the word part is easy for me. The performance part is the part that's going to keep a casting director hung to you. So even if you flutter a couple of words or you forget the words, but you put your own words in there, if your performance is unforgettable, they're still going to call you in and want to see you. So for a person out there that's auditioning, focus in on the performance of the scene. If you got more of the material that you don't have to necessarily put on camera, still read the stuff that comes before it, still read what comes after it, so that you know how you want to start your scene, the before moment, the after moment, and then in the performance, make sure the performance that you're giving is authentic, grounded, but then at the same time, try to find that aha moment, so when they see it, they remember you. And if they don't restrict you, try to give them at least 2 different takes. They got to be different. Try to give them at least 2 different takes of each of those scenes, so that they can see it close to what maybe they're looking for, but then they can see it how you want to do it when you completely unleashed. Or if the person was a happy person, then what would that person look like if they had an attitude? And just something simple like that could be just enough for them to see your range in a short amount of time, and for them to feel comfortable bringing you in, knowing that they have a person that has choices in their pocket, and they like that kind of stuff.
They like that, know that. All right. So who's on your wish list that you would want to collaborate with?
Collaborate with as far as a actress or actor?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm gonna say the age old thing, Halle Berry. So so yeah, that has not died. But really, people like Amari Hardwick, my boy Tyrese, we've been in different rooms and different things together a lot, but we've never actually worked on a project together. So certain people that I feel like have played characters that I can relate to, I would love to kind of collaborate with them in a film and have that kind of thing. Now from behind the camera, if I'm directing, because I also executive produce films as well, there's a lot of folks that'll fit that. There's a lot of folks that'll fit that.
You can tell me about one. Tell us about one.
I say
tell us about one, at least 1 or 2.
Well, it's crazy because I hate to kind of put it out in the atmosphere, but there was a project that that we wanted to put out there that we was going to use. I guess I could say it now, Miss Cicely Tyson. Now that she passed away, we was going to put her in something. Hope to put her in something, and we had another person in mind to put her with, just to kind of honor that generation of people. And the life, because they're in there. She was almost 100, and they got some stories to tell already, but to put them in a story that would really gravitate to that senior generation of people, because that generation of people seen stuff in this world that me and you and people younger than us, for sure, they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. In the world that we in now, in the world that they had,
yeah,
it's like complete separate things. Even what we're doing right now did not exist. They could not do this, And there was a time when we were younger, and I'm sure you remember, it's like you dreamed of being able to call someone and be able to look at them. So even situations like that are taken for granted. That's not a 20-year-old thing. We haven't been looking at people on our phone or on our laptops for 20 years. It wasn't possible. So, just some of the dynamics of things that have changed and we kind of take it for granted because it's so easy. It's a way of life now. They lived in an era that was a lot different. So to kind of be able to put some of those stories in film, in a story, and have them ride off into the sunset, we had an idea for that. And we still may be able to get it out and have to, recast for Cicely's role. But I'll start there because the elders are important. It's just like now being on set with Angela Bassett.
I know, that's an honor.
I never get enough of that. I never get enough of that. At least when she do her thing, it's just an honor to watch her work. So she's very graceful, very honorable, very pure, beautiful, wonderful person. So yeah.
So what is your biggest reward that you feel from all of this?
The biggest reward is actually a good night's sleep.
I love it.
Yeah, the biggest reward is a good night's sleep because, I think some people, in my opinion, I think some people can have a harder time to sleep when some things are left unturned.
Mm.
They have things that they want to do or get done, and they didn't do it. They didn't get it done. They didn't try it. Versus you put it all out there. So when you go to sleep, you're going to sleep because you're tired. You deserve it. You've been this way, that way, running like a robot. And it's one of those things that I think, even from the athletic background of myself, one of the things, one of our mantras will be, if you're working harder than the next man, then when you have to face them, you'll be able to outperform them, right? So even now, with our work ethic, if your work ethic is one that you know is rare, that a lot of people wouldn't do this. They don't know that you're up at night, in the middle of the night, taking care of business the way that you are. They see certain successes and pictures and red carpets and this, and they feel like, I want that. But they don't really know all the sacrifices that go behind that. Then that's when you know, okay, I can go to sleep well, because there's a lot of people that want it, but they're not really willing to do what it takes to have this, to do this. So the biggest reward for me is, one, doing that, and hopefully in doing that, always been able to honor God in doing it. So whether they read the articles, these are articles behind me. When I get a news person to put God in a paper or magazine, I'm like sky high, because right now there's so many things that speak away from that. And, it can be politically incorrect for some people to put too much emphasis on his ability and power in folks' life. And for me, it's nothing that I shy away from. So by him putting me in the positions that's been happening, it gives me a chance to continue to personify him. So when I'm able to do that, that also is my greatest takeaway, because when I'm done, when this life is done, that was my goal in the first place, was to continue to try to reach others and be honest about what he's been able to do in my life, so they can use that as an example if they want to and grow closer to him. But it won't be because I didn't tell them, because I'm gonna share it. I'll let them know.
That's right.
I'm not gonna hesitate. I'll tell them, like, it wasn't me. It wasn't the logical thing. It wasn't my agents booking my audition and I went in, I killed it, and they called me back, and I'm the star of this film. No, it'll be this long roundabout situation that it's like, wow, he could have did that for anybody. He sure could have. So that means it can happen for you. And so now it's just a matter of, like, are you going to be in position and be ready when he uses that opportunity for you? So right now he's using me in a way where I'm not doing anything somebody else can't, per se. It's just, are you willing to do everything that it takes to do that and be that? And then when it happens, are you ready for it?
Yep. And this leads me, before we wrap up, we got a couple more minutes. I have to bring out my dream big pillow. And I just want to know, because I'm living my dream, interviewing you, my acting. So what is your biggest dream? Like, I've always wanted to be in entertainment, singer, acting, all of that. Yeah. But when I have guests on the show with Sunday Night Live, I have to know, what is your biggest dream? Or you may have already accomplished it.
Well, that's the thing. Some of those things that people call dreams, I just put them down as goals. So to be honest, my biggest dream that I don't think is a goal, because it could be hard to attain, at least before I pass. But my dream goal, put them together, was to buy the Los Angeles Lakers. To believe it or not, like, I grew up a big Laker fan, and it was like, I don't know if I'll get to play for them, but even if I play for them, that's a short amount of time. But what if I could be owner of the team one day? In that time, I was thinking about complete ownership, and I didn't know it was a family-owned company at the time. But now I'm like, okay, maybe I'll get to a point where I can at least have a percentage. So, that's my goal, to where it's like, hey, if I be able to buy a percentage of the Lakers, so Jeannie Buss, the Buss family, be looking for me down the road, like, I would love to just have a little fraction. It don't have to be much anymore, but have a little fraction of ownership of the Lakers, be able to be there on the court on a regular basis. Because whenever I'm out there, I do try to make it out to the games. But yeah, just to be a part of that family, I think before I actually go back to the dirt would be awesome for me. So I know that was a dream that probably came out of left field. Folks probably weren't expecting me to say
No,
that. Yeah,
Stanley, did you
exactly.
see my face? I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my God, I would have
yeah.
never dreamt that for you.
Yeah, that's been a dream for me since I was young, and I knew it was big enough as I was getting. Oh, I was like, oh, that's not easy because at that time we didn't have any black ownership in any sports. So to have a Michael Jordan and some of the others that have minority ownerships of some teams now, like that's a development that happened after I was grown. But as a kid, they were not in those positions. So to come up being like, hey, I want to buy the whole Lakers franchise. I knew like that's a dream that's big, but I also knew that if that's my dream, then I have to do what it takes to be able to fiscally make that happen. So that's going to have to put a drive behind me that's crazy for me to one day be able to monetize a group that say, hey, we got enough to pull together to try to buy some ownership of your Lakers franchise if you're willing to take our offer. Yeah, so that's really my real dream.
I love that. I'm applauding you for that. That's a beautiful dream.
Thank you.
And
yeah.
it can happen because I like the fact that you said it can be just a small piece. Just a small piece.
Yeah, just a small piece now. Yeah.
Any
other word. Yeah, that's my squad.
I love that dream. So in wrapping up, you have been phenomenal. I've enjoyed interviewing you. I want to know what inspirational nuggets do you want to leave for the viewers?
Inspirational legacy?
Nuggets. Inspirational nuggets.
Oh, nuggets. Inspirational nuggets. As far as nuggets, again, for every individual, get the most out of yourself first and foremost. Don't be set into a culture where you're told how to work and what to work, but you're actually pushing yourself because you just want the best out of yourself. No matter what it is that you're doing, you're trying to get the most out of yourself. If it is just doing one thing, excellent. Do the one thing. If it's 8 hours a day, 4 hours a day, do the 4 hours a day, and then you want to go and kick it on an island for the rest of the 18 hours, 20 hours a day, that's up to you. But it's like at the end of the day, don't get up in age or don't let your life pass. Like we talked about the dash earlier. And you keep looking back saying, I wish I knew what I know now. I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Do your best to try to think about what if I did know now what I need to know and I did something with that now so that you can look at yourself in the future and look back and be like, man, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad my younger self made choices for my older self so that my older self life is what it is versus being in your older self life, looking at your younger self saying, dang, I wasted so much time. I wasted so much money and opportunity.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, look into your future and ask your older self. It's an embodiment moment. Look into your future and your older self and ask your older self to speak to tell you now what you should be doing, what you should be saying yes to and should be saying no to, so that you can thank your younger self later. That's what I would say as far as an inspirational nugget. Be able to be in a position where you can thank your younger self when you're older.
Oh my God. I feel like you're talking to my soul. Literally. Don't go away, Stanley. Hold on. What? Oh my God. Did y'all not hear that? That was amazing. Again, Stanley, I want to thank you so much for being on Sunday Night Live. Don't you go away. I'm going to put you back in the studio room. Okay? Guys, oh my God, what Stanley said, that is what I've been telling myself. And I think like that, like everything that I'm doing now, I want to go ahead and do it now so I can prepare myself for my older self. Okay, I need for you all to go like, comment, and share and spread this interview with everybody. And you put on there, he was with Chadwick Boseman, and I didn't get that question in. how did he enjoy working with him? But that's okay. I'm gonna have to bring him back on the show because Black Panther 2 is gonna be coming out. So we just gotta have him back on Sunday Night Live. I love you guys so much, and thank you for spending your Sunday night with me. Don't forget, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be an actorpreneur, you can be a teacherpreneur, okay? You can be a principalpreneur, whatever you need to do. Come out, break out of that shell and have multiple incomes, just like Stanley talked about today. I love you guys, smooches, and thank you so much for joining me. See you next Sunday.